What if the wisest man in the kingdom was the one they called a fool? What if truth wore bells and bright paint and was dismissed as a joke? This is the story of a kingdom that laughed at wisdom and the man who spoke when no one wanted to hear. This is the story of the fool who told the truth. In the kingdom of Alderain, truth was quieter than laughter. The palace glittered with gold and silk. Music filled the halls, wine overflowed from silver cups. And beside the throne danced the Jester. Colorful clothes, silver bells, a painted smile too wide to be real. They called him Fool. They laughed when he stumbled. They clapped when he mocked himself. They dismissed every word that came from his mouth. But the fool saw everything. He heard the generals whispering about war. He saw the treasury thinning. He saw the hunger spreading beyond the castle walls. He knew the truth. The kingdom was rotting from the inside. One winter evening, a messenger arrived from the northern provinces. Crops had failed. Villages were starving. People were beginning to flee. The message was read quietly in the council chamber. The generals waved it off. Exaggerations, they said. Fear spreads faster than famine. The king, proud and eager for glory, announced a new military campaign instead. More spending, more soldiers, more celebration. The fool stepped forward carefully. "Your Majesty, we are not strong enough for war. The people are hungry." The court fell silent. Then laughter erupted. "Since when does a jester understand economics?" one noble sneered. The king smiled coldly. "You are here to amuse, not advise." The fool stepped back. Truth had spoken. Truth had been mocked. He tried again, the only way he knew, through performance. The next night he staged a play. A proud lion king who ignored the cries of his starving forest, wolves who whispered lies in his ears, a kingdom that collapsed not from enemies, but from neglect. The court roared with laughter. The king laughed hardest of all. He did not see himself in the lion. The fool felt something inside him crack. Truth, when disguised as comedy, only works if someone is willing to see it. No one was. Months passed. The famine worsened. Taxes increased. Soldiers were forced to take grain from villagers. Riots began in the outer districts. The fool moved quietly between palace and city. He listened to mothers who had lost children. He heard fathers curse the crown. He watched resentment grow like a storm on the horizon. He returned to the king one final time. "This will not end well," he said softly. "Please, cancel the war. Open the granaries." The king's expression hardened. "You have grown bold for someone so replaceable." The generals began to whisper. Perhaps the fool was spreading fear. Perhaps he was the source of unrest. Perhaps the fool was dangerous. The king summoned him in private. "You always speak of disaster," the king said quietly. "Why?" "Because it is coming," answered the fool. "Or are you creating it?" That was the moment everything shifted. The fool realized the king did not doubt the famine. He doubted him. Truth was no longer inconvenient. It was threatening. The king ordered the fool silenced, not executed. That would create sympathy. Instead, he was declared unstable, mad, a man who had begun believing his own jokes. His bells were removed, his costume stripped, his words officially labeled delusion. And suddenly, no one listened at all. Even the people he had tried to warn avoided him, because believing a madman is dangerous, and people prefer comfortable lies to terrifying truths. The war began. It failed. Allies withdrew. Enemies advanced. Food ran out completely. The capital fell into chaos. Fires burned. Guards deserted. The gates of the palace shook under the force of angry citizens. The king stood at his balcony, watching everything crumble. Below, in the courtyard, sat the former fool, unpainted, unheard, unbelieved. Their eyes met. For the first time, the king looked afraid. "You said this would happen," the king whispered. The fool did not smile. "I begged you to listen." The mob stormed the palace. The generals fled. The court scattered. The king was dragged from his throne. And in the chaos, someone shouted, "Where was the fool? He always knew everything." They found him sitting quietly against a pillar. "You knew," a woman cried. "You knew and did nothing." He shook his head weakly. "I tried." But no one remembered, because warnings only matter if they are believed in time. The mob did not kill him. They left him there alone. By morning, the throne room was empty. The king was dead. The crown shattered. The kingdom divided into factions and violence. The fool wandered the ruins days later. No bells, no paint, no laughter. Just a man who spoke the truth and watched it die unheard. A child saw him in the street and asked, "Are you the fool?" He answered softly, "No, I was the only one who wasn't." Years later, travelers passing through the fallen kingdom spoke of a quiet old man who warned strangers of pride and hunger. No one listened to him either, because he looked like a madman. And the cruelest tragedy of all is this: he was right. He was always right, and it never mattered. And that is the story of the fool who spoke truth in a world that preferred lies. Now tell me, if you were him and you knew no one would listen, would you still speak? Or would you choose silence and survive?